Alfred Adler put forward an idea that still sounds faintly contrarian. He suggested that much of human behavior is shaped not primarily by what happened to us, but by where we are quietly trying to arrive. At the center of this view is a condition he believed we all share. From the beginning of life, we encounter ourselves as limited, smaller, weaker, dependent. Adler called this experience inferiority, not as a flaw, but as a starting point. In his view, inferiority is not something a healthy person outgrows, it is something we learn to respond to. And those early responses begin shaping the direction of a life long before we are aware of having chosen one. This orientation becomes visible later, in subtle but familiar ways. We may face the same challenge at work, yet experience it with a sense of urgency, while a colleague treats it as mere routine. We may hear feedback as something that lingers long after the moment has passed, while for someone else, it remains simple information, easily set aside. From Adler's perspective, the difference lies not in temperament, but in meaning. When competence becomes quietly tied to safety or worth, striving stops being optional, it becomes necessary. What appears as ambition from the outside may feel, internally, like something that cannot be relinquished. Adler believed these patterns organize themselves around unconscious aims, not goals we articulate, but directions we move toward without noticing. We may live as if we must always be useful, or as if we must not fall behind, or as if we must never invite correction. These aims are rarely stated, they are felt. To support them, Adler described what he called private logic, internal rules that feel self-evident rather than chosen, rules formed early when they genuinely helped us navigate vulnerability. Because they once worked, they remain unquestioned. Adulthood then unfolds as a series of reasonable decisions, all aligned with assumptions that no longer need to hold. Adler did not view this striving as pathological. Many forms of competence and contribution arise from early limitation. The difficulty appears when compensation becomes rigid, when achievement no longer produces orientation, only repetition, when effort continues without reflection. At that point, movement persists, but direction is never reassessed. It is here that Adler's contribution becomes clearer. His aim was not to argue against striving itself, but to trace where its urgency first took shape. He suggested that much adult suffering arises from continuing to pursue aims that once solved a problem we no longer face. With adulthood, the question quietly shifts. It is no longer what will keep us acceptable or secure, but whether the direction we continue to follow still reflects anything we recognize as our own. Questions of identity rarely resolve neatly, but noticing the rules we live by, rather than the roles we perform, can begin to separate habit from necessity. And sometimes that distinction alone is enough to alter the direction of a life without dismantling it.